Hi everyone, welcome to the third Field Service Management Asia Summit. This is a interesting session where we're essentially going to deep dive into how deep technologies have transformed field operations and field service in general across the industry. As the pandemic struck, I think a lot of our businesses were forced to go digital, and most of the areas were impacted in a big way, especially intelligence and how data was being used in organizations. But I think one of the largest changes we've seen in many parts of Asia, especially India, is in terms of field operations. So as these technologies started getting used more, we at MapmyIndia saw many interesting use cases where location and location technologies were being integrated into field operations and field service management. And this session will be kind of dedicated into how that evolved and how it's being used right now. And I hope for it to be a very interesting learning session and to exchange questions and answers at the end of the talk. But I'll try to keep it short and sweet and as interactive as possible towards the end. And I wanted to begin by introducing MapmyIndia and myself. I am the Chief Strategy Officer at MapmyIndia, and we are India's largest mapping and geospatial technology and data company. We've been building maps in India and in various parts of Asia for about 25 plus years now, and associated technologies. And these technologies touch many millions and millions of lives on a daily basis. So quickly to start off with the presentation, especially in India, we've seen field service is kind of a very key part to many companies that operate across the country, because India is such a large country, and smarter use of technology is essential to boosting productivity and increasing the experience of an end consumer if you're kind of serving them, an end customer also. Also, one of the key shifts, like I mentioned earlier, we've seen over this last 1 or 1.5 years is the use of location technologies and AI in the field operation, field service management area. We've seen many companies having very large, thousands of people on ground being able to operate, automate, and kind of run these systems using location and augmenting that location capabilities into their systems that exist. It's been very interesting, and we've seen significant benefits that have accrued to these companies in different industries, whether in consumer durables or banking or many other industries that require people on the ground, especially in a situation like we are in right now in the pandemic. So that's the main topic that I'm going to focus 15 to 20 minutes on, and try to show how this technology is getting augmented into existing systems at different types of So we've seen a ton of use cases that have come across multiple industries, and this is just a view into all of these use cases that have popped up, especially in the last 1.5 years. And I can start with consumer durables, where essentially once an electronic item is sold to a consumer, how is it installed, how is the service done, and how is the service allocated, and all of that experience, even when a service person is actually coming towards you, and how do you make sure that the end customer does not have any anxiety about when and what is the time that the service person is going to reach. So all of these use cases have opened up in consumer durables, and especially in that industry, we've seen a very large disruption in terms of field service and field service management, and location being a very central role and augmenting onto the existing systems, not necessarily kind of having a new system altogether. Even in telecommunications, as telecom is a very, very broad, sector where the reach kind of spreads from cities to smaller cities to even villages. the need for, having location to know where the field service person is and where is he going and where is the tower and all the telecom asset management. We've seen multiple use cases on that too. Because one of the main problems there was how do you accurately measure distance to make reimbursements, especially if the distances are long, because in rural India, you'd probably be going from a drive, to say the least. So we've seen location being augmented in many interesting ways in that industry. Even insurance, in the two main processes of selling and claims, as field people are visiting a claim site or salespeople are trying to go sell, even adding location there and kind of allocating these tasks by area is a very large use case. We've seen huge productivity and revenue gains accrue for customers that kind of augment this capability onto their systems. Similarly, in banking, another core financial service, the most core financial service, we've seen the biggest disruption in this area because banking generally has very large field teams, whether it's an NBFC or a retail bank. And we saw a very large use case with one of India's largest retail banks with over 100,000 people on ground, completely transform their entire field operations, whether they're going to verify a customer, collect from a customer, or even manage a customer. All of that for the retail asset portfolio completely transformed by augmenting location and location here. Delivery logistics, I think we've kind of, as consumers, gotten used to having that experience where you see someone coming close to you and you see that on a map that triggers that, lesser anxiety. And when we're ordering food or when we're, hiring a taxi, we've gotten used to that. So it's unlearnable behavior. And in delivery and logistics, I think we kind of expect the same type of behavior as end consumers, but also as a business. As a business, if you're getting goods into your own plant or your own office or your depot, you expect to know by what time. You expect some kind of a mapping and location experience so that you're able to anticipate and plan next operations. And this is core to things like grocery delivery or even companies like Amazon or Flipkart, very core to their delivery operations to be able to measure and predict. Interestingly, even in the pharma and healthcare space, as health is becoming very, very critical through the pandemic, we've seen that industry change, but also the experiences in those industries and the core companies there are digitally transforming. Location is being augmented, whether it's field operations or whether it's selling operations or other operations on field. We're seeing location being augmented in very interesting ways. And finally, the central information technology and the technology teams in every enterprise are experiencing augmenting of location in different systems. The biggest system being the field systems, because as a user has an app and there is a manager who has kind of a dashboard, all of that is syncing in and talking to each other basis. One of the most important factors there being location, that where is the person, where is he going, is he reaching on time, if I'm supposed to reimburse him, what am I supposed to reimburse him? So all of that automation is sinking in, and technology teams at many companies are taking notice of this, not only to boost internal capabilities and productivity, but also to add that experience, because that experience becomes extremely critical once that's exposed to, let's say, a dealer, a distributor, end customer. So moving on, what were the best practices, technology practices we saw as all of this got augmented onto the field force? I mentioned a few, but kind of to reiterate, reimbursements were done on verifiable distance, measures. So through that, we've seen many companies save a lot of money by just making sure that reimbursements were done on actual on-ground travel distance and not based on arbitrary, or pre-fed data. So that resulted in real data, and that also resulted in extraordinary savings for many companies all across the world. The next one is task assignment. So how do you assign tasks when you have, let's say, 100,000 tasks and 200 people all across the country. Now, this assignment problem is based on many things, but location we felt was the most critical thing to assign a task. And as that was assigned basis the closest distance and the closest amount of travel that needs to be done by a person, productivity metrics shot up. So what that meant was that people were able to accomplish a lot more in very less time. And that essentially resulted in more excess time, and therefore that time could be used for more gains and more sales or more customers being serviced. So that's one of the biggest, I would say, top line and bottom line effects we've seen, which is task assignment. And once those tasks are assigned, just like systems of an Ola or an Uber or Swiggy, like the task assignment running very closely based on distance and time, and even in real time, not only done like maybe a day back or a week back, but when it's done in real time, there are very powerful gains, not only for the company, but also for the end customer who's experiencing, a service or some sort of touch point from the brand. The other one was to capture leads, for kind of maintaining a clean database. So as you're capturing this, you're verifying the address. So as you verify that, the only method for verification is location. So if there is something that's being entered about a field service that's being done in a particular location, you can very accurately using location AI be able to measure and verify that okay, this actually did happen. And that capture and verification process is also very I would say crucial when it comes to kind of moving things forward and definitely making sure that visits did happen, and not wasting time on kind of complaints or visits not happening or any kind of such changes, impromptu things. Other use cases were around attendance. So a lot of employees, when they were remote during the pandemic, people could easily know that people were going to those remote offices or remote places by kind of tagging in or geo-tagging that yes, I was here and I am here. And also kind of fencing customer locations so that once someone goes there, you're able to know that someone actually, definitely went there. So these were some of the best practices that we saw throughout, the last 1.5 years. I'll kind of go deep dive into a few of them. I would say one of the most common ones was how do you give the same experience as an urban collab or Swiggy or Ola to your field service management processes. So how do you enable that doorstep experience? And that was kind of key as we saw it when a field service person is assigned to you and you know that he's going to reach you at 6 p.m. The customer kind of expects firstly him to come at 6 p.m. or somewhere close to that, or at least before that, and also kind of to see him on a map maybe half an hour or maybe 1 hour before. So that experience can easily be enabled using this, and we've seen many cases where brands have started exposing that that methodology to customers. We've seen that even in very interestingly, even in automotive servicing. So if someone is coming to your house to service, a bike or a car, customers have started seeing a simple map and a tracking experience half an hour before, and that greatly increases brand equity for the brand itself as they're giving that kind of experience. This was one of them. And also for getting live visibility of service agents. This is more for the company itself and for the managers that are running this humongous pan-India or pan-country operations. How do they know where are all the agents at the start of the day, at the end of the day, and at any point of time if they need to know where a particular agent is. So another interesting feature was live location enablement. So as you enable live location, you can imagine your whole system runs something like like an Ola. And what happens in that case is any manager, whether at a zone or a national level, is able to get 360-degree real-time view of everyone on the field. And that's extremely powerful because you can also service someone some impromptu requests just by knowing the live location of everyone. So that makes it that kind of makes your system to be able to scale. Like if you were suddenly to get 3x or 300% more service volumes, how would you service them? And live location is critical in answering that yes or no. And what augmentation of capacity do you need? And another thing that I mentioned was verification. So when a lead or a request comes in for an address, how do you verify it? How do you know whether it's there or not? And a very simple use that we've seen, which we also as consumers have experienced, is putting a pin on the map. So once you put a pin on the map, it kind of, seals or verifies the location that someone needs to be at. And that gives you at least, if not the most accurate, but at least some amount of verification of where a person needs to go. So that is extremely powerful. We've seen that utility grow, and we've made it extremely simple. We've made, tools that people could integrate in like 5 or 10 minutes. And that kind of capability reduces any wastage of time. Like if the location was somewhere else and someone went there and, they just lost time, or that there was unverified address and never existed, that results in, productivity decline and therefore like losses. So this kind of reduces that by definitely making sure that there is a location that is to be visited and there is a verifiable location. Then allocations. So allocations maybe on a daily or a live or a weekly basis. How do you allocate basis, let's say a pin code or a neighborhood boundary, or basically at a city level or even granular? How do you make custom territories and then allocate tasks basis those custom territories, or business partners or delivery territories? So that's where that's another very easy allocation methodology, and kind of keep growing that, or have tools where you can keep changing the allocation area. This too makes it extremely scalable and extremely well distributed and thought through to be able to allocate and measure and keep growing that territory as you keep augmenting more capacity. Even from helping a field agents reach the place, giving them kind of turn-by-turn navigation within the application or the service that you're or CRM that you're kind of providing to the field agent. That's also something that we've seen, because then you, as a brand or as an IT team or as a business team, can measure at the back that did he actually follow the route that you recommended or not, and all that data becomes available to you as an organization also. And automated reimbursements. That I think is a very, very simple and very easy to do system to put in place. Basically, live location enable, and then distance automation based reimbursements are something that we've seen is kind of first step and very easy to do, and it makes everything more scientific and definitely saves a lot of pilferage in any system. So some samples of how we've seen it integrate on different systems. This is a sample of a specific CRM. One of the good things is you can integrate it on any CRM. It's a very simple capability that can be augmented. Here, where you're seeing is in this particular CRM, the location or the map has been integrated, and one is able to see if someone checked in, checked out, or where is the live location or the last location reported of that specific field person, and also kind of assign him tasks, whatever the task be, and also approve his claims, or kind of auto approve a lot of the claims made. And if you see this, this CRM also has an embedded feature of what are the actual distances traveled basis, basis actual on ground distance. And even allocation, like you mentioned. So essentially, one of the best parts about augmenting this location AI technology is that you can augment it on any CRM or any system. So any field system can easily be augmented. There are very simple SDKs and tools to integrate. Can be integrated for all the use cases that I mentioned, whether it's automating reimbursements, knowing live location, verification, and also for other task-based task allocation systems. So all of them can be easily augmented onto any field system that you use right now. So it's almost like it really does not take much effort, and it's pretty easy to kind of get started. So one very interesting case study that we saw during the pandemic was extremely large, and it was very interesting, and because the scale of it, that was one of India's largest banks that had over 100,000 plus field agents wanted to augment this location capability across their chain, whether it's from verification to management of the loan to even collections. Very large field, field operations, not specifically field service, but still it is in the field operations domain. And what they ended up doing was they had an existing, system, CRM, that managed all of these activities. They just kind of augmented our capabilities on top of their existing field system. So on the field app that a field agent had, and on a dashboard which they used to manage and analyze their field operations. So very interestingly, they live location enabled the entire system. They used the verification so that they could verify that people are actually going and visiting customers or going to collect, and also automated all the distance calculations so that they were able to reimburse, with some science, and also start allocating tasks on a daily basis, where the customer beat was. So very, very, very interestingly, this was one of the true digital transformation cases we saw, that where location was augmented, and they were able to visibly see huge gains. One of the main gains was basically increasing their collections by a significant, from 16% or more collections, literally within the next quarter. And till now, the gains have been phenomenal. But that, and also reducing the time to go and collect. So the productivity really increased because people were traveling more or were not assigned to the right areas, and that whole system became so systematic and automated that literally the system knew that if there was a nearby task, it could only go to the nearest person. And because of that, they saw massive reduction even in collection times. And verification also times reduced because verification was augmented with the underlying location. And because of that, once the location was captured, anyone internally in the bank could take a decision that yes, this task definitely happened. And because of that, there were no revisits, there were no multiple visits, or there was no wastage of more time of a field person or the company and of the end customer. So because of that, they saw a huge reduction in verification times as they started using location in the verification systems also. So that's a little bit about this, about how location can be enabled in field systems. And MapmyIndia as a company has been around for a while. We also, during the pandemic, we powered the COVID portal, where our technologies were integrated, and it still is live on the COVID portal. If you go and check for a nearby vaccination center, where this portal has been used by millions of people. We work across industries, so we are exposed to so many different use cases across, whether it's the technology companies or consumer durables and FMCG, banking, or even retail and transportation. And a lot of those cross learnings definitely help many companies. We also work very closely with the government, as some of you might know that the government did release a directive for how maps should be, regulated and used within the country, and that's definitely a boost for local companies to innovate more. And we work across the domain, whether it's the financial or the, or the other aspects of the government at central, state, and city level. So that's it for today. I tried to keep it as short and sweet. It's a very powerful, interesting technology, and we've seen the benefits accrue to many companies and their end consumers. And I hope this helped, and would look forward to your questions and on the chat box. Thanks a lot.
you.